2:45 p.m. this afternoon. Yeah, we're having some interesting weather here. And already I am having some interesting sights out here. We did have, yeah, there was a rather unique jet aircraft that flew over. Very visible because we had some very clear conditions, if you will. I've been out here only but for a matter of a few minutes. Kind of set up shop. And yeah, okay. So yeah, we're having some flyover activity, but nothing of. Okay, yeah, I am hearing one flying over right now, but they're not leaving any leftover indications of their flyovers. In other words, no trails, no streamers. Right now, I've got my camera fixed to my selfie stick, so, and I'm not used to recording in that style. But yeah, these are the type of formations that we are currently having. Oh yeah, I can hear the rumbling kick in. And yeah, might be some colorations of, any of these should reflect the light. But those are few and far in between at the current time. Oh yeah, let's look at this one over here. I'm zoomed in all the way. Oh, breeze is kind of chilly. Looks like I got a bee that just came up to say hi. But I am going to sit down and, well, I want to do a little bit of talking because, well, I've been having my thoughts today. And this kind of follows with what I made mention of in my previous video and the content therein, and that being of a reset. Okay, so I guess that's basically the topic of this talk. Now, I don't know if you are aware, but there is like a recycling, okay, and this kind of goes right along with the time loop theory and all that, but there is a cycle that, well, it should be very identifiable as far as the history in this country, to where we have a reset that takes place approximately every 100 years or century, if you will, but it takes place within the range of about 40 years out of said 100 years. Okay, and thus being right around the turn of this century as that phrase. That bird is just a... Will you quiet down? I'm trying to do my talking. Dang. It seems like whenever I come out here and start talking, Yeah, my little buddy there has to do his little spiel. But anyway, so we have this reset that seems to take place every 100 years, give or take, around every turn of the century. And as far as within this country, let's just go back. Okay, we had and these are defined by ages, okay? And so we had the industrial age, okay? And we'll just begin right there. I mean, there were previous ages, but we're going to begin with the industrial age. Okay, and that's of course, when the manufacturing really started to kick into high gear in this country, whether it was through lumbering or through your steel works or whatever, and you started having the constructions of buildings and cities, and of course that also included uh, higher aspects of machinery with the gearings and all the manufacturing systems that came about. Okay, but at the beginning of that was the onset of electricity. Okay, and I bring this up because there was a choice that took place, and of course there was, if you go into some of these other channels that have their, well, I'm going to say theories, okay, but their discussions over the resets of civilizations and the leftover evidences thereof, and and how it seems that mankind gets to a certain point in their evolution process, and then something happens and boom, there's a reset. So there was a choice that had to be made over the type of energy that we would use, and the choice was, well, of course, through the narrative, we'll just say with Thomas Edison rather than with Tesla. And from there, it really seemed like that industrial revolution really took off. But there was evidences of more advanced features before that age. And it seems as though, those had to be wiped out in order for that industrial age to begin through that decision of energy. Okay, and so, you have this period of the late 1800s into the early 1900s, and you go into these other channels that speak of these years because you had the great mud flood and uh, well, if you just search around, um, there's a great many videos out there pertaining to this, and that also falls kind of in line with Tartaria. But so we go from 100 years of the industrial age, and then all of a sudden there is this, once again, a new age that becomes to fruition, basically defined as the nuclear age. Okay, and of course that was, well, actually, let's go with the original labeling of the atomic age. Now, this to me is quite important because this is when, you know, they really started to come out with the advancements through atoms, nuclear sciences and all that. Okay, and with your electron microscopes and so on and so forth, and they were able to start in viewing atoms or whatever. And thing is what I want to get to is, do you realize how many things that we observe and have observed throughout history that is of spherical nature? Okay? Our blood, and the thing is, the science is always giving us illustrations of so many things out there and within that are of spherical nature. The atoms, the molecules, um, you know, the planets. Uh, have you really ever thought about the realities of the sphere? Okay? And how it really plays into reality. But so through this atomic age, of course, we had the atomic bombs, and of course, you know, the advancements of the workings within nuclear energy and furthering understandings into radiation and all that. But during that age, we had a lot of experimentations that took place out. Well, let's just go with as far as exploding atomic bombs and other types of nuclear style explosions, implosions, even. Air, land, and sea, these took place. So we end up going a little bit later after these experimentations that took place with these atom bombs and whatnot. And we go, 40 years, give or take, into the future, into the late 70s, early 80s, and they started really, well, let's just, no, let's step back a little bit. Because it was in, you know, 50s and 60s to where that space age started to develop and unfold, right? Which went along with, of course, the advancements of energy and uses of energy, you know, propulsion, and which tied right in with these atomic bombs and you know, all that. It all connects. So when you really start to think about those connections, and we go from those experiments, and let's just, because it's more of a visual when I say atomic testing in the deserts, okay? You get the visuals, right? Because we've been programmed for those visuals. But they took place in the air and out in the oceans as well. But let's stick with that visual that I've given you of those nuclear explosions, the big mushroom-headed explosions, right? Okay, those took place up here too. And then from that point, and after the war, then we go into the space exploration. Okay? And eventually, we're just claiming that man went to the moon. And this took place, of course, in the 60s, 70s, through the 80s, and then we had, well, the shuttle missions, and then all of a sudden, well, we lost the technologies to go back to the moon. Well, everybody that, within the conspiracy thought process, if you will, right away that started to trigger people. And it's like, wait a minute. And right away people got thinking about the technology word. Well, no, 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 no. See, I have this theory, and it's my opinion, that during those atomic testings that took place in the 40s, it actually blew holes in the ozone. These holes allowed these rocket propulsion travel systems, if you will, to be able to escape the atmosphere. Now, of course, a lot of people want to bring up the Van Allen belt and stuff like that, but okay, cool. But I'm just trying to throw this little theory out there. But, so we kind of go into, from that phase, and then into the 70s, and all of a sudden we got this environmental movement that's kicking off. Because, we got identified holes in the atmosphere, but there's this narrative that it's from pollutants, the CFCs, and all kinds of laws and regulations and policies are made. Okay? Well then, it wasn't all that long ago. We get word that, hey, you know what? Those holes have sealed up. They healed. We're doing a good job. We're improving the planet. But yet now, well, of course, we seem to be getting hotter. Or this seems to be doing more destructive damage. Okay, so now, if you're following along with my little process of thought here, and you're kind of getting a visual of it all in your head, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed that's the case. So we go from creating these holes up there in the atmosphere that allow space travel, but then those holes heal up and they tell us, oh, we lost the technology to travel out there anymore, but in fact it's because of these holes. Because remember that throughout the space travel industry, we hear of these timetables of launches and re-entries, and they have to be within these specific periods of time because of these windows of entry, re-entry openings, these windows, right? Well, those windows started to heal. And, well, let's just say the space industry kind of crashed. Okay? So now we got efforts to get back out there. But here, okay, so I'll bring forth this, okay, here's the what if, big what if. Supposing something should happen globally, whether it is just a global war or an invasion from out here, or maybe an invasion from within, or maybe a global pandemic that that no one alive has ever seen before. But regardless of the situation, the conditions have gotten so bad that it's just wiping out everything, and so we need efforts to leave, go to find a better place, a new home, right, and start over. Kind of like an exodus. Okay? And thing is with the onset of the technology that we have today, I mean, we're having this effort to make the Jetson scenario become a reality. Elon Musk now has these cars out there, these hover cars for sale and cheap. Okay? Yeah. And they want to get back to, you know, following through with these high-speed rails of transportation and, you know, a real electronic digital effort. I want to use jumpstart, but no. I mean, just a massive push forward, a surge. Okay, a surge forward. There we go. So, okay, so a few years down the road from now, we have this Jetson age really kicking the high gear, right? But an emergency, a global emergency, is declared, and there's efforts to escape. We now have, and if it involves escaping from this planet in search of a new home, like I said, Exodus, okay? And in fact, that would be a galactic rapture, okay? But, and that might sound, you know, wow, okay, cool. And this would, I mean, this could not involve us at all. This might happen generations down the road. But a galactic rapture. But, okay, here comes the nice curveball. What happens if the flat earthers are correct? And there is a solid firmament up there. And there's this new space race to escape. And all these vessels, large and small, by the thousands, begin to hit the firmament. Boom, 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 boom. I guess that could be defined as meeting your maker in the air. Hmm. For those that, think they understand the Bible. Once again, this is just a what if. But yeah, it states in the Bible that in the end times, all those, they're supposed to be, let's just say there's supposed to be a meeting that takes place with the Savior, with all those living and dead that believes. The thing is, no, I'll just leave it there. I could embellish that what if just a little bit more if I so desired. But if you've been playing along, following along, hey, great. And if you've been, like I said, getting the visuals, awesome. But I've gotten this thought process off my chest now, and I'm sitting out here getting scorched because once again, looking around here. Oh, okay, we got this little bit right here, which, when I see, yeah, there we go. I don't know anymore. Any cloud in my eyes are suspicious. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. Now we can actually declare this to be a. There we go. A Skywise observation recording. Yeah. Because once again, that just goes to back up my statements at the beginning. Also, we just had like a dimming that happened, and there's no clouds that I'm aware of. Just this haze. Boy, he's blurred right out, isn't he? Oh, oh, well, no more trail. What the heck? Wow, he disappeared. I'm not seeing him. Oh, there he goes. Okay, he just started back up. What the heck? I can't see what I'm recording here, but yeah. I don't know, he just vanished all of a sudden, and there's nothing there. But it was like he just kind of disappeared and reappeared. Wow. Okay, I'm going to have to end this so I can review. And I'm of course hearing the rumbling. Might be able to hear that. And then again, once again, we've got some background noise. So, yeah, but yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and review this and try to get the uploading process started and come back out here and actually watch because, huh, I don't know. Who knows? We might get a couple of these that might provide some colorations. Hmm. All right. Yeah. Once again, that's dimming out. What do we got? What do we got going on? This is. Hold on here. Okay, the lighting's dropped down all the way. I don't know if it's blurred out now. What do we got going on? Cause yeah, this thing keeps dimming and then brightening back. It begins to brighten back up, and I'm not seeing any clouds around it. Huh. Let's go ahead and. I think I'm almost max zoom here. Trying to keep the lens flare away. Is there something up here? My lens flare looks kind of cool. I have some of that Wumpa Wumpa kicking off. My God, this is going on a half hour long. Yeah, another long uploading process. Well, alright. You know what, maybe I won't even review this. Maybe I'll just go ahead and post it as is. Now, if you've played along and have watched, and if I've given you anything to think about, well, awesome, thank you. And yeah, we'll see you once again back here on this flip side.